So this conversation is going to be more of a dialogue. We'll have a conversation with our panelists and we'll open it up to everyone here to ask some questions. Claudia, what motivated you to start LOVE?
That's going to be a long story, but I'm gonna summarize it. Well, I have a degree in psychology, forensic psychology, and in 2009, I started working for a suicide prevention program called Life is Precious in Brooklyn. And my role as an intake counselor included interviewing girls that were referred by partner hospitals because they experienced depression and suicidal ideation. So I was learning directly from the girls how they felt hopeless about their futures, especially because most of them were new immigrants, and they felt that all of the challenges that were presented to them were impossible to overcome, and so the only way out was to take their lives. And so those were adolescent Latinas, and that was my first kind of exposure to those challenges. But that is like you said, Jen, the opportunity for me to kind of see where life was going to take me and use my education and talents. But that, in terms of the reason why I decided to do this is because I identified with those girls. I moved to this country in 2000. I wasn't an adolescent girl, but I had to go through all of the challenges that they saw myself. So I came here by myself. I was 20 years old, and I had to learn the language. I had to live undocumented for several years. I had to put myself through school. I went through every single challenge that they saw in their lives, and so I could identify with them. And so that was the reason, the main reason I decided to do something, right? So at that time, I was here at NYU pursuing my degree in public administration at Wagner. But it was more about me feeling I have to do something because I can relate to these girls. I was one of them. And as a Latina, seeing young Latinas taking their lives, for me, it was just not, I had to stop that. So that's what prompted me to start the organization.
That's incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And Claudia, the work that you do is critical to Latina success. And can you tell us about how folks can get involved with Latinas on the Verge with Excellence and make mentoring part of their life?
Well, that question is broad, but I think that if I take it back to this past 2 years, I think that the organization has gotten a lot more attention because the work that we do has been needed for the longest, but it wasn't getting the attention that it needed because it wasn't seen as an urgent or like a priority, right? So mental health became this thing this past 2 years, right? But before, it was there, but clearly not as relevant. And so we've been doing this for 10 years, and we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. So we've been trying to bring visibility to the work that we do with that intention of people getting more involved and people providing support to our work. But and it has gotten more attention because of the pandemic, because of all the challenges that I mentioned before. They got worse, right, during this past 2 years. So we have we get a lot of requests now from schools and from the government agencies, and it's just interesting because you talk about opportunity gap and all this, funding, and now it's when like, oh, we want to invest. It's like, really? But it was there before. But now you want to invest, right? So the kids were there before and they had challenges before. But now you're interested in like funding us while we've been knocking on doors for years, right? And so that's what's been happening. And I bring this up because to your question, the mentoring that we do is between high school students and college students. So for this kind of environment is extremely important because there's a lot of need for youth to actually see directly from people that look like them that they're able to achieve those goals, right? So to get college students involved, to get students from, as a NYU student, several students from this university support our organization as mentors. So being able to become a mentor, we also get seasoned professionals from several institutions to provide a more structured and guided career readiness support to our students. So there's several ways that people can support. But I just wanted to give the context to that question, that it's not something new and it's not that superficial. So I just want to make sure that that it is needed and that people can really become involved and provide that guidance and support that it's not like a check to do like support. It's like the kids really need it.
Well, Claudia, I wanted to ask you in more detail the fact that you came here at the age of 20 and you're an example to so many young women and it's quite inspiring. So do you have any stories or testimonials of the impact of one of the young women that have participated and how their life has changed?
Thank you. I have a few, yes. But it's just that growth, to your point, about is making it possible for the girls to see, oh, I can do it. And that kind of story is what we can share. We have girls that start in our programs as, first not speaking the language or like being so shy. But not only shy as a personality character, but as a fear of, I can't open up because of that feeling of belonging or that I fit in. And so I feel that it's both, right? It can be a personality trait, but it's also about like I'm afraid to speak up in this, in this world. And they start there, and then with the support and the guidance and the mentoring, and they see all these young women that come from college, and they show them like, let me guide you, let me show you the way. And then in 4 years, they have gone from that. Like we had a girl last week speaking at our event, and she started with love, no English, and now she gave her full speech in English. And she was outspoken, and I was just mesmerized. And there's this idea that, and just like her, like she's now in 12th grade. And when I see that and that process, like you were in 9th grade and you're blossoming into this unbelievable person. I personally get invested. I want to make sure that she goes like all the way. And I've had, when I started the program, I started it myself in 2012, and I was the one teaching it in the beginning. And those girls also, I see them now that they graduated from, there's a school in East Harlem called the Young Women's Leadership School. They graduated high school, they graduated college, they're in their master's programs. I'm like, that makes my life worthwhile. So those stories, but that concrete example of like, you take that girl that felt, from those girls in the suicide prevention program, like, I can, to like, yes, I keep going. And it's all about, making them believe that it's possible. So I think that goes back to the reason why I started. We have pools of volunteers, like really, and from everywhere. We take our girls, we have developed some amazing partnerships with great institutions and corporations. And so, for instance, if this year we We have an event with Uber, and we have an event with, you can help me out, Michelle, if I'm
Citi?
Citibank, and we have another event with Verizon. And so that's the way that they're all supporting the organization. And so professionals like you from those companies, for instance, are gonna come and talk to our girls about this is how I made it here to Uber or to Verizon and we're all put all of our seasoned professionals in one place, and so they're exposed to all of the different opportunities. So that is one way, because our direct mentors are college students, so that's different. So they go to our public schools, they do group mentoring with our girls, that's specific. But for seasoned professionals like yourselves, we open opportunities in that way. For panels, for site visits, so there is tons of relationships that we have with Latina professionals that they said, okay, come to my office, come to Ernst & Young, and we're gonna show the girls the opportunities that they can do here. So that's how we partner with, again, professionals like you.
Hi, thank you for coming and sharing all of this and for what you're doing. I'm Jocelyn, I'm from Washington Heights, and I went to College of Arts and Science. And I went to an all-girls school, and that school is no longer there. It was 115 years old. Some of us tried to save it. Some of us cried. We were blind, so we didn't know. We were just like living our life. And though we had plans, to do something in the future, life. And so I'm really happy to see what you're doing, because, we said, what now? It was all of the girls, I think maybe more than 98% of the girls that went to that school would graduate. And I lived in a very tough neighborhood, and I experienced violence. So for me, going to that little haven of a school was so amazing. And I'm so happy to see this. And I've got plenty of people that would help or want to take part of opening something that would offer what you're offering. I mean, a friend of mine is trying to get a school going, and she's actually in her MBA program now. So it's really great to see that it's happening, because it's been there. The need has been there, and the difference it makes is amazing.
Well, Jocelyn, the dean is a witness to this, but we been working to, my personal desire has been to open a school, but we have been working on with people here in the city and to get the cap lifted, and it's very hard, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Personally, it's frustrating because kids should have options, and you should not involve politics into education, and it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. And Michelle and we've been working for the longest on this application. I shared that desire with Dean Nutt, and unfortunately in New York City we can't do it. And I would love to do it here. I would love to open a school in the Bronx, or whatever there is the high need, but we can't do it. And it's just my personal belief. I believe that girls should have their own space, and they should have their own schools. And we would love to open a school that is just for girls, and to do what we do, and that's small percentage with all public schools, and just at a larger scale. But if we're gonna open that school, it can't be in New York City, at least not for now, which is not ideal. If someone comes to me and tells me I want to open my own school or my nonprofit, I'll guide you all the way, because that's your vision.
Yeah.
And so that I'm pushing back, because I heard that many times. And I heard when I was at Wagner and I had a fundraising class. I never forget that, because Dean, I presented, and there was a panel of philanthropy people, and one woman was like, this proposal is not gonna go anywhere. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Yeah, and so I wish 10 years later I can be like, yeah, let me tell you what we're doing, So you gotta, people may come from their own, perspectives or beliefs or whatever, but if you have a vision, like we have a vision, I want my school. I can't open in New York City because I can't control, the politics. If I could, I would.
Right.
But if you want to do something, just go ahead and do it. Well, I would say that if I envision my school, it will be a school that focuses on what you said earlier. We first focus on what are your needs today. Then we can talk about acing an exam, right? And that does not mean that because I am a very structured, organized, disciplined person. That's who I am, and that has to be there. But I've learned through all of these years that, like you said, like you can't, and that's what we see in the girls. You are stressed out. You didn't have sleep. There is conflict at home. You can't succeed academically if you don't address that first, right? So that's something that the DOE does with the community schools. But I think that it's not enough. It's not good enough because I look at it as it's a Band-Aid, but it's not the essence or the core foundation of the education that the kids are getting. So it's different if you put a reproductive health office and a counseling office and a whatever into the school, but it's different if you teach that, right? So if we're teaching it as a class, as we're talking about math, let's talk about what it is to have a overall well-being. What does that mean? We don't have those classes, right? And we don't have classes about who are you, right? Like, let's talk about who we are as people. So that's the education that we need to have to resolve all the other issues, right? And then I think that that's the education that I would love to have for our girls in the schools. Like, let's address that, and then in addition to that, let's talk a little bit about real history, right? So like, you know what I mean? So that combination has to be there, but we first talk about holistic, you, and then we address the education that you need to get. So I think that would be my ideal work.
So let's take this time to give another round of applause to our two speakers.